Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome to our Profile T1 webinar for experienced users. Let me just, first of all, take over the screen share. So give me a second while I do that. Let me just, yeah, I'm going to just replace the current share, and hopefully that'll take care of that. So let me just confirm that screen share works. So Val, if you just want to confirm that the slides are
Yep,
being
we're seeing the
okay.
slides.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Val. Well, welcome. Thank you for being here. Today, we've got a quick, fast-paced webinar for you. I can see that people are still joining us. Seem to have quite a few people joining us today. I think we've got more today than we did yesterday. So welcome one and all. While we are waiting for everyone to log on, let me just quickly go through some introductory slides. My name is Michael DeLauro. I will be obviously the presenter today, and I had past tense my own accounting practice for a long time, and then a number of years ago I decided to focus on training and technology and all that fun stuff that I really enjoyed more than anything else. But I certainly know what it's like to be um, in the thick of it, especially when it comes to tax time, when you've got to take care of your tax clients. It's coming around the corner. It won't be long. Things are going to start getting busy right after Christmas, and so I certainly empathize with all of you as tax season starts to turn the corner. I'm not alone here today. You heard Val's voice just a couple of seconds ago. Val is here to take care of all the Zoom techie stuff, make sure that things run smoothly on the webinar front. And also back again today, and we're almost a tag team. Duncan Robinson is here. Duncan is with Intuit. He's with the Profile team. Duncan knows more about Profile than I will ever know. And Duncan is here to answer your questions. You might hear Duncan turn his mic on and answer some questions live, but he will certainly be monitoring the Q&A window. If you have any questions that you want to submit in writing, Duncan will be here to answer your questions. We did have a webinar yesterday for brand new users, and unfortunately, sorry to say that we were just overwhelmed with questions. And it's a very quick webinar. You'll see very soon. Let me just show you that slide right now. You can see that our webinar only runs for an hour and a quarter. We'll be presenting from 1 Eastern until 2, and then we've got 15 minutes to hopefully get through your questions. And if we don't get through all your questions, and we may not, given the number of people that we have here today, remember that there are all kinds of resources. Hopefully you got the handout when you registered for today's webinar. You should have received, or you did receive, a handbook, kind of a training guide that's geared towards our webinar. It's not the full training guide that you can get for Profile. It touches on what we'll be discussing today. And in that handout, you'll find all kinds of links to various resources. And so there's a host of stuff you could find online. Just go to the help menu inside a Profile, for example, or visit Profile's website at Intuit Profile Tax. And you'll see there's so much there to help you out. Of course, the support team is there as well. The other thing I should point out is there are some CPD credits available to you. We'll talk about that in a second. And if you do have some questions, please go ahead. And the only thing we ask is if you could please limit your questions to what we'll be discussing today. As far as CPD credits go, you'll see on the screen you're eligible for 1 CPD credit. You will receive an email immediately following the webinar. So if you need those CPD credits, just sit tight and the email will come in. So who is this training session for? Well, we're calling it T1 for experienced users. How do we define experience? It could be you've been using Profile for, a month. You've already gone through a whole slew of different tax scenarios and you want to learn a little bit more. Or maybe you're a long-term user. I know we often have people on our webinars who've been using Profile for 10, 15, 20 years, even more maybe. And sometimes we do get folk who come on here who know a heck of a lot about Profile. And so if you want to learn a little bit more, you understand the basics, you want to personalize Profile, maybe you've got some slightly more complex T1s, or you want to look at all the host of Profile productivity tools. Well, we're going to point all that out to you today in more detail you can see on the screen. We're going to talk about what's new. We're going to talk about how to get more efficient. We're going to very quickly show you how to prepare a T1 for a self-employed individual, coupled returns, a married couple, for example. We're going to get into things like client letters, optimization, and then we're going to look at some pretty cool features such as refile, snapshot and variants, disclaimers, and as you can see, a whole bunch of other stuff we're going to talk about. So it's a quite a action-packed webinar in the 1 hour that I've got to show all this to you. So of course, it's going to be introducing you to all these features and showing you how you could use them, why you would want to use them, but we cannot, obviously, we don't have enough time to get down into details. Of course, my phone rings as soon as I start a webinar. Same thing happened yesterday. Let me just silence the phone. And so, yeah, the other thing we should point out is we are here to talk about Profile software. We cannot get into any tax-specific situations. We're not here to answer any of your tax questions. Sorry about that. As we all know, tax can be rather complex and arcane, and we just don't have the bandwidth to get into tax specific type of questions. So please do limit your questions to Profile. What's new? First thing is the latest version, 2024.0.3. So that's the version you should be on. What you can do is you could go and check your version by clicking on the help menu and then going to about, and from there you'll see your version, okay? And if you're not on that version, then you'll need to update Profile. And the way you could update Profile is you could just go to online and check for updates, and Profile is going to run a check, and there you go. I get the message to say that Profile is up to date. A little tip for you, though. What you could do is, remember, if you're familiar with Profile, remember that there is the Options menu. And if you go to Options Environment and then the Systems tab, so if you go up here to Options Environment and then go to the Systems tab right over here, there is a checkbox that says Enable Automatic Check for Updates. So what that does is every time you launch Profile, it will automatically go and see if there's an update available or not. And if there is an update available, it's not going to take over your computer and all of a sudden prevent you from doing anything and you have to wait for the update to load. It'll just alert you that there's an update, and then you can go and update it at your convenience. Okay, so it's not a bad idea to go in there and check that box and let Profile go in and monitor the updates. And I'm pretty almost assured that between now and definitely tax season, you'll see a whole bunch of updates starting to land. They increase in frequency the closer we get to tax time. Something else that I wanted to point out, a few years ago, Profile limited the number of tax returns, or the tax years, I guess I should say, that you could go back. By default, if you start Profile, and you want to open up or create a tax file, you can only go back as far as 2009, which is still, a long time ago. I don't know if anybody would ever have um, the need to file a tax return going back that far or even further. But if you wanted to go all the way back to 1997, you could learn about something called the module manager. And with the module manager, as you could see, you can go and open up this window and say, okay, you know what? I really need to do a 2007 and a 2008 T1 for whatever reason. So you could go into Profile and say, load these modules. I need these additional modules. And notice how they're separated by tax type. So you've got T1, T2, T3, and FX. So you could go in and load more tax years should you need them. Okay, so I just wanted to show that to you. I'm not sure how long this has been around. I learned about this actually because my colleague Duncan Robinson put a video on YouTube. So if you go to Intuit Accountants, if you go to the Intuit Accountants channel on YouTube, you'll see there's all kinds of videos for Profile. And that's how I found this one. So really strongly recommend that you check out those videos. There's a whole slew of them. Another way you could get to them is, let me just very quickly show you. If you go to the training menu and select other training options, you're going to load a website. And just scroll down a little bit, and there you go. It says go to videos. And from there, you can go and see all of the available videos. And those videos get updated on a regular basis. And extremely good idea to go in and check out those videos. Okay, let's talk about T1s. Let's dig right in. Let's talk about a coupled return. So let's say you have a tax client who is living common laws, married, you want to prepare a joint T1. And so how do we do that? So pretty straightforward. All you have to do is create a tax return for your first client and then check the box that says married. And then from there, you could scroll down that info page and enter the spousal information as you see right here. Okay, and so let me show you how to do that right in Profile. So let me see if I can open up a tax file that is for a single individual. Let me just widen this a bit. So let me take this one here. I'm just going to open that. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to check the box that says married. All right. Then you can just scroll down on that page and go all the way down to where it says spousal information. And then from here, you could put in their social insurance number, okay? And let me just put in some very quick information here. And then put in a date, there we go. And there you go. So that's pretty much all you need to do. And then remember, there are hotkeys. There are the function keys that you could press. You could use the icon bar up on top here. You know what I'm going to do? I got a low system warning. I'm going to turn my video off just to save some bandwidth. All right. So what you could do is either click on this spousal icon, okay? Or if you're like me, you prefer using function keys, just press F5 on your keyboard and you're going to get a message that says, do you want to create a return for that spouse? So what Profile does is it checks for social insurance numbers. And my social insurance number is wrong, isn't it? I'm missing a digit, but let's ignore that. If it finds if there is already a tax return for the spouse, let's say you had two clients last year, they weren't married, they weren't living together, they were individual clients, and now you want to link them up. So you could do that. You could say, open an existing return. In my case, I'm going to say, create a new return for the spouse. And I now am in the spouse's return. And let me just fix that social insurance number. There we go. And what I can now do is I could toggle back and forth. Let me go back to my slides. And there's the magic key, F5. With the F5 key, I could toggle back and forth between the two tax returns. So there you go. There's spouse number one, there's spouse number two. All I'm doing is hitting F5 on my keyboard, or I could click on the little spousal icon on the toolbar. Okay. But once you start getting used to those function keys, it's a lot easier to work with the function keys. And now you could start entering information. So we put in a T4 for this spouse, and essentially all we're doing is filling out one spouse's information and then going to the other one and filling that one out. You could, of course, use all kinds of convenient tools. Let's say there's a T5 slip for some investment income, and it's split. You want to split that income. So let's press the F4 key to open up Form Explorer, type in T5, and we're at the T5 slip, and let's pretend it's RBC. And notice here, I could tell ProFile how I want to split that income. So 30% goes to the spouse, and then the rest goes to this particular individual. So there you go. So now I'm entering interest for $1,000 interest income. 30%, 300 bucks is going to go to the spouse, and $700 is going to be on this tax return. Okay, that's how easy it is to allocate investment income amongst the spouses. You could do something similar with charitable donations and medical expenses. I don't know if you have that situation, but oftentimes I would have people that would come in and they would say, I'd claim all my charitable donation and my spouse claims their charitable donations. I don't want you to combine them. And sometimes you might point out, well, it might be advantageous. Nope, I get mine, they get theirs. Okay, no problem. And so you could see right over here when you're recording charitable donations, you could actually tell ProFile whether you want to use the charitable donations for both spouses or not. And you could do something similar with the medical expenses. Okay, so when you're working with coupled returns, there's a bunch of different ways in which you can, let's call it, optimize a tax return, okay, by splitting things like investment income and as well sharing or not sharing, as the case may be, charitable donations and or medical expenses. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about another way you could optimize a tax return. So there is a really cool feature in ProFile that lets you split pension income. And so we have here an example. Actually, let me open up that tax return. Let's do it in ProFile, and then we'll go back to our slides. So I have, hopefully I choose the right, these are all, of course, fictitious returns. So let me just pick this one. And so what I want to do is I want to go to the tax summary. So here's the tax summary for this return. And it says Sarah has income total of 141,000. John's got 33,000. And if we look at the pensions, Sarah's got $110,000 of pension income. John doesn't have any. And so this is a perfect opportunity to split the pension income. And how do we do that? Well, let's go back to our slides. There is the form T1032 that I could open up in ProFile. Make sure that you're doing it on the person who's splitting their pension income, okay? So go to that person's tax return and then using Form Explorer, open up the 1032, and then there's an optimization tool that you can use. And then once you've done all this, ProFile will do the analysis for you. So let's show you how to do this in ProFile. So here we are on Sarah's return, And let's go and get that T1032. So I'll click again, press the F4 key on my keyboard to open up Form Explorer. Here I am at the T1032. I'm indicating that, yes, it's the pensioner who's going to be splitting their pension income with their spouse. And all we have to do is let ProFile do the work now. We just have to sit and watch. So scroll down until you get to this worksheet. So there's the split income pension worksheet. Click on that. And there's a cool little screen that says, all right, here's the situation. Now, sorry if you see a suggested transfer here, because I tested it before jumping on and I didn't delete this. This should be 0, okay? This should be like these 2 columns here. You shouldn't be seeing anything here because I've already run the optimization once and then I closed the file and I forgot that I should have deleted it. But imagine that this says 0, okay? All you see is here's the combined tax liability for both individuals if there's no split. Now, how do we get ProFile to suggest a pension transfer? Just right-click on the form and select Optimize Split Pension. And ProFile is, look at how the number is changing here. ProFile's doing its thing now. It's trying to figure out what's the best split, and it now will populate suggested transfer. Okay, so it's telling us that we could split $54,000 of pension income, and by doing so, we would save $6,000 of tax. Now, we could run our own calculators. We have 2 columns here, so we could do our own scenarios if we wanted to. Over and above that, you could see that ProFile even gives me this little bar chart that says combined tax, no split with this amount split, and so on and so forth. So you could see the effect of splitting the pension income. So if we want to accept ProFile's suggested transfer of $55,444, all we have to do is again right-click and say elect this pension income and select that. And there you go. We have now split the pension income based on ProFile's analysis. And that's how easy it is to do that, okay? And remember, there are detailed instructions in the handbook that you would have received when you registered for today's webinar. Okay, let's go over to another scenario. Let's pretend we have an individual, self-employed, and you need to file a tax return. You need to prepare a tax return for that individual. So there is the T2125 for self-employed individuals. Maybe you've got rental income. There is a 776, if I'm not mistaken, for rental income. But let's focus on someone who's self-employed, has their own non-incorporated business, and we want to prepare a tax return for that individual. So let me, first of all, close this one, and rather than watching you type in social insurance numbers and individual's name, I prepared some files beforehand. So let me close this one down. Now let's go over here under the file menu. Let's select the individual whose return I prepared and imaginatively entitled self-employed. And let's open that. And there you go. We have our taxpayer whose name is self-employed, and we want to prepare T2125. So what do? Again, using Form Explorer. So press F4, type in T2125. And now I've already populated some of this. As you can see, the name of the business is there, and the industry code is already there. By the way, a little tip for you. If you want to find the industry code, easiest way, double-click this field. This little window is going to open up, and then type in a keyword like consulting, for example. And there you go. Now you could pick the industry code for that type of profession or business. Click OK, and we've added the industry code. If I scroll down, you'll see I've already put some numbers in here. So gross income, 222, and then I've got a bunch of expenses here. So I've got rent, and I've got management admin fees, I've got some salary, I've got some travel, telephone, and so on. So all we do is we just put in some numbers. So if we've got insurance of $1,500, we put that in there. And if we have meals and entertainment, we put it in this field. And let's pretend it was 2,200, only 50% deductible. So Profile does the math for me. I don't have to worry about it. Okay. And we just put in the expenses. Now, if there is a vehicle, we do not put the vehicle expenses on the T2125. You can see here, it says motor vehicle from worksheet. So what we want to do is open up the worksheet. Now you could do that by double clicking in this field, or for people who are experienced, they know that there's a form called business auto. Okay, so let's open up the business auto form. And here's what it looks like. So the first thing is we record the vehicle expenses on this form, and then we could allocate. Notice, like I'm saying here, I want all the business auto expenses to go to the T2125. I've had a client, and maybe you do as well, who sometimes has more than one unincorporated business, more than one proprietorship, and you want to split the car expenses between the two businesses. Maybe one, the individual owns 100%, and the second one is a partnership of some sort, and they split all the expenses somehow. And so that's why it's a really cool thing that you could separate out the vehicle expenses on a separate form and then allocate to the business income form that you want. So you could be, T2125, a T776, and so on and so forth. So you choose which income statement, if I could use that term, you want the expenses to go to, put in total business driving and total kilometers driven during the year. Profile does the percentage. And now you just start putting in all of your expenses. Okay. And of course, Profile is going to prorate that based on the 62.5% business use. And if there are, if there's a lease or there's a business, there's a CCA to calculate on the car, or interest expense to calculate on the car, notice that we've got all these sections down here. I did create already, I prepared a lease calculation here, so you could see that this particular individual has a lease on a vehicle started 2023-01, and the lease terminates 2025-01. Okay, remember we're doing a 2023 return. Total lease charge is for the year is 14,400, and then the capital cost or manufacturer's cost or list price is 60,000, and now Profile will prorate the allowable lease deduction. Profile takes all of that, and if we go back to our T2125, Profile gives me right over here the eligible deductible vehicle expense. What if we've got assets? What if we've got some furniture, computers, and things of that nature? Well, you could use Form Explorer to open up something called the T2125 asset form. Be careful. Be careful when you look for that form, because if you just type in the keyword asset, which has happened to me in the past, I know there's a form that I could put all my business assets on. I know the name is asset. Let's pretend. So I type in the word asset, I hit enter, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. Here we are, asset details. So I could start putting in all of the assets, right? We have some furniture, we've got some computers, but look, it says T776. So this is not going to transfer over to my T2125. This is going to be transferred if I had a T776 to fill out. So be careful when you're filling out these things that you're on the right form. Let me just press the escape key to close this. And what I really want is the T2125 asset, okay? And now I could put in my details, all right? And from there, I could start putting in, let me just click yes here. I could start putting in all of my information, and that's going to flow over to my T2125 slip as well. So the available CCA is going to go over there, okay? And so there are so many forms. So using Form Explorer, there are so many forms. Let me do that again. I just type in the word asset, and it's so easy to start entering information on the wrong slip or the wrong form, not noticing that I'm on the wrong page. So watch for that. Okay. And I'll be honest, I got caught out a number of times as well when it was tax season and you're trying to record some information and it doesn't go over to the T1 jacket and you can't figure out why is it not going on the T1 jacket. And of course we start blaming ProFile. What's the matter with this software? And we don't notice that we're on the wrong page. So there's, in a nutshell, very quickly, how you could work with a T2125 for self-employed individuals. What if there is a partnership? Let's go back to that T2125. I want to show you something really cool. So if we go to the T2125, what if this wasn't fully owned by the individual? What if this was a partnership of some sort and it's 50-50? So if I have an individual, an unrelated individual, it's not the spouse, because if it's a spouse, it's easy. ProFile will easily prorate the T2125 amongst the two spouses. But if it's somebody else, and you're also doing that person's tax return, you could scroll down and put in who the partners are. So if we scroll all the way down here, we're going to see details of other partners. Okay, so notice the first line is the spouse. So here, I'm not working with the spouse. I want to work with a different partner. And I put in the partner's name and I put in the percentage partnership. Okay, and now I have to go and prepare the T2125 for that partner. So something really cool you could do. So put in all of the T2125 information on this page for this particular individual. Okay. Enter the partnership details, and then do this. Go over to Edit and click on Intuitive Copy, okay? Go and open the other individual's T2125, and then select Edit, and you're going to do Intuitive Paste. And what ProFile is going to do is it's going to say, okay, well, partner number one, we said got 60% of all the income. So this partner number two that we're intuitively pasting, therefore gets 40%. And ProFile is going to plug all the information in with the correct partnership information and the correct split. It's pretty cool the way that works. So the other thing you want to keep in mind is if you want to have a disclaimer, as you can see right here, it says prepared without audit based on information provided by the taxpayer. If you want to have that kind of a, maybe we'll call it just amongst ourselves a notice to reader, then what you could do is inside a ProFile, click on options, go to the module menu, and then select for the tax year in question. So notice we've got all the tax years for T1. So if I'm getting ready for 2024 filing, I would select 2024, and then I would go to the disclaimer tab, and then I could say, I want a disclaimer on the T1 jacket. And if I also want to put it on the T2125, I could copy all this wording over here and then check the box for business disclaimer, excuse me, and then paste the business disclaimer and then click OK. And now I will have that disclaimer on both the T1 jacket and the T2125 itself. Okay, let's move on. What if you need to refile a tax return? What if you filed an individual's tax return, and then they came back a little while later after you filed it, after it's been assessed, and they say, oops, I forgot to give you something. You could use what's called T1 refile. T1 refile is, it's not a profile thing, it's a CRA thing, and it's an easy way to amend, if you will, a tax return. So all you have to do is open up that individual's tax return, and here you could see all of the points, the key points about T1 refile. Okay. So you can't use T1 refile, for example, to change things like marital status or addresses. Again, you'll find all of this information in the handbook. You'll also find it on CRA's website, for example. This information is available online. And so what do we do then if we need to do a refile? So we've already filed the tax return. Let's pretend this return has been filed. Now we want to file an amendment. So open up the refile form. Okay, and there we have the refile form. And check the box that says, yes, this is an amended return. Let's put in a date. Let's pretend we're amending it today, 2024, what is it, November 13th. Okay, and you could put in some comments here. Notice it says the information will not be transmitted to CRA. Your notes will not go to CRA. Okay, and once you've done that, all you have to do now is go and put in whatever the missing information was. Let's say they said, oh, I forgot I made a big donation and I forgot to give you the donation slip. So let's go in here and let's put in a donation. Okay, so let's pretend it was $5,000. All right, so now we want to refile the return. Okay, and so what we need to do before we can refile, though, is we need to get another signature on the T183. Notice that there's the letter R now on the T183 to indicate this is a refile. Okay, and if you refile again, it's going to say R2, and if you refile again, it's going to say R3. And so you need a signature on this. And once you've done that, now you could go up to the e-file menu. And once you got the signature, select e-file or refile this return. You may have noticed that one of the conditions for refile is, if I'm not mistaken, it'll only work for the last 3 tax years. I think that's CRA's limit. And so what if you have a client and you need to amend a tax return that's older than 3 years ago, let's say, or it was paper filed. Let's pretend. I think I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that you cannot refile a tax return if it was paper filed. So if the client filed their own tax return and mailed it in, I don't even know. Do people even do that anymore? But
You
anyway.
are correct, sir.
Oh, thank you, sir. The dulcet voice of Mr. Duncan Robinson.
Yeah,
there you go.
It has to have been e-filed.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to have e-filed it. It could have
Right.
been someone else, but
Right.
you'd have to reconstruct the return. But
Right.
yeah, if it was paper filed, you have to do a T1 adjustment.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you for confirming that. And
Or go
yep.
to the online account.
Oh, yes, of course.
You can make
Yeah.
changes there.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you. Good tip. Yeah. Just go into, if you have represent a client, you have access, you have that level of authority, you can always go to CRE's website and make a change. But let's show you this really cool thing called variance and snapshot, because variance and snapshot is another, I think, really cool thing that you could do with ProFile that you can use to do a T1 adjustment, or you can use to highlight major changes on a tax return from last year to this year, for example. So if you go back into options module, All right, so click the options menu, go to module, and then select the variance tab. So that's where I am. I'm on the variance tab. What you could do now is you could say to ProFile, listen, alert me if there's a variance, let's say from last year to this year, that exceeds either a dollar amount or a percentage amount. If the dollar value is greater than 5,000, or if the percentage is greater than 5%, whatever, you could put those parameters in. You could even check the box to say, show the previous year variance by default. And what's going to happen is ProFile will highlight with kind of a brown shaded field. So when you go into the tax return, if there was a change that exceeds those variances, you'll see these fields are going to be shaded with a brownish background. And then you could hover your mouse over that and it will highlight the variance. It'll say last year you had T5 income of 12,000. This year you've only got 1,000. I don't know about you, but it often happens that people forget to give us some slips for whatever reason. And this is a great tool to highlight the differences and say, hey, wait a minute, did we forget something? Because it was a lot higher or a lot lower last year. And then you could call the client and say, hey, listen, what's going on with your donations, or what's going on with medical, or whatever the case may be. Now, you could also use variance to do what, as Duncan suggested, if you have to amend the return and you can't refile, then what you could do is use the variance and snapshot feature to get ProFile to automatically fill out the T1 adjustment. I don't know if anyone's ever filled out a T1 adjustment. They are no fun at all. But here's a really cool way in which you can do it. So let's again pretend that we had a client who you filed their tax return, or they filed it, it was paper filed, or it was older than X number of years, and you can't do a refile. So now we have to do a T1 adjustment. And so we have to make a change. Okay, so let's pretend on this particular return, when you filed it, the client told you they had gross billings of $222,000. Okay. And then they call you up and say, you know what, I made a mistake. I forgot, I didn't give you an invoice that I sent to another customer, and it was for, whatever, the 20, 30,000 bucks. So my 222 gross income should actually be 245,000. All right. And you're like, oh, okay, well, oops, wait a minute. I forgot to do something. That's not good. Let me put that back to 222. All right. So we filed it this way. All right. I can't talk and type at the same time. That's my problem. So we filed it with $222,000 of gross income. All right. And then the client says, oh, I forgot. I made a mistake. We have to do a T1 adjustment to bump this up to 245. So here's what we could do using the variance and snapshot feature in ProFile. Let's take a picture of this tax return as we filed it. All right, so what we do, go up to the audit menu, select snapshot and variance, and say, I want to take a snapshot of this tax return. So I'm going to click new. I'm going to name the snapshot T1 as originally filed. All right, I'm going to name it and click OK. All right, now I could close this window. Now I could go over to that gross income line and put in $245,000. It's like, oh, that's a big difference. Going to owe more tax. And now we have to do the T1 adjustment. And so again, using Form Explorer, call up the T1 adjustment. And here's my T1 adjustment. And we have to fill out all the line numbers, right? So what you do is right click and say adjust from the T1 as originally filed. So what I'm telling ProFile, the information that now appears on that T1, compare it to the snapshot that we took a couple of minutes ago and make an adjustment for any differences. So I'm going to click that. And if we scroll down, there you go. Your T1 adjustment has been prepared based on the snapshot. So there's a whole bunch of really cool things you could do with snapshot and variants. You could even go into the form selection menu. And when you select all the forms that you want to provide to your client, you could also check the box that says, take a snapshot, okay? Every time I change the status to completed. So if I put in the status, the customer status of completed, I want ProFile to take a snapshot of that tax return. So there's all kinds of efficiency tools that you could use inside a ProFile. Talking of efficiencies, let's have a look at some other things you could do. There is a letters template or forms template inside of ProFile. So if you want to personalize, there is a letter. You probably noticed when you prepare the package for the client, a letter is automatically prepared, and you could change that letter. You could change any of the existing templates, or you could create your own. And you could find all of this by going to, again, options, going to templates. And then here's all my letters. Okay, so notice there's an engagement letter. Oops. Let me just see if I could. I made some change. Yeah, okay. You should never do this before a webinar. See my directory here? I've got the wrong directory. Let me just see if I could quickly change this. Okay, give me a second. We don't have a lot of time, so if this doesn't work, let me go and browse. Don't even ask me why. I decided I wanted to put stuff in OneDrive just to see what would happen. And of course, there you go. That's what happened. I made a bit of a mess of things. Where's my OneDrive? Of course, I can't talk and type at the same time. So if I can't find it, I'll explain it to you. Actually, you know what? I'm looking at my watch. I don't have a lot of time. So thankfully, I've got some slides for you. So make sure you've got the right directory here. As you can see, I made a mess of things by changing the location of my templates. Find the letter you want. So if it's the engagement letter, notice that there is a T1 engagement letter. And what you could do is you could double click it, okay? And when you double click it, it's not going to look exactly like this. It's going to be similar to this, except you could edit the letter. So you could go in and make changes to that letter. And you could therefore go ahead and edit that letter. You could also edit the client letter. So ProFile has some existing client letters. Dear client, here's your tax return. You'll notice that your income was blah, blah, blah. And so you could make changes to that one. There's even a user definable letter. Notice we've got user letter 1, user letter 2. What you could do is you could create a checklist using these forms. So you could say, dear client, we're going to prepare your tax return. Here's what I need. And you could, it's like using a Word doc, Microsoft Word or any other word processor. And you could type in what you want your checklist to say, and then you could just send it off to the client. So there's all kinds of really cool things you could do under the template window, okay? All right, let's move on because we've only got 10 minutes left. And I want to make sure we show you everything. And again, I know we're going really quickly, but we want to just show you what you could do and then use all those resources available online, the handbooks, the training guides, the videos, to learn more and dig into it in more detail. Of course, we do have memos and tapes. So if we're working inside a ProFile, let me just say, go away. All right, so if I want to add up some numbers, for example, so let's pretend I'm back in the T2125. My colleague, when I was working in an accounting office, my colleague would love using this. So he'd say, okay, total of office expenses. And sometimes you get clients, they don't give you a summary. They'll just say here's all the slips, here's all the receipts, and you have to add everything up. So what my colleague would do is he would attach a tape. So right click under the line for office expenses, select attach a tape, and then he would just use the calculator, 222 plus whatever the number, oops, put it in the right field. And then 555 plus, oops, I can't type and talk again. Let me do that one more time. Plus 55. Not hitting the tab key. See, I'm starting to fall apart here. Okay, so there you go. So we've got some numbers and then hit the enter key. Let me put in another number and then just keep doing this and then hit the equal key and there's your total. And now there's a tape and I could then hover my mouse pointer over that shaded line and I could see that there's a tape there. You could also do the same thing by right-clicking and selecting memo. Oh, that's interesting. Let me try that again. Attach a memo. Okay, so do that. Attach a memo and type in whatever you want to type. Okay, and now you could attach a memo to any field inside a profile. Okay, so there's my memo highlighter to show me there's a memo there. And so you could use memos and tapes inside a profile. All you have to do is right-click any field and select memo or tape. You could lock a file once you've finished with a certain tax client. You can lock that file. You could even tell ProFile to automatically lock it. So again, if we go to options, we go up here, options, and then we go to module, all right, and select data locking. And you could tell ProFile, if I select a client status of, let's pretend, waiting for client, okay, or in partner review, or whatever you choose the status you want, I want you to lock the file, okay? And then what happens is, once you change that status, so we can click on the little eye icon here and say, I'm going to change the status to, I can't remember what I said, waiting for client. Yeah, there you go. So notice it automatically checked the lockbox for me. I'm going to click OK and watch what happens. All the font colors are now green. And when you see green font, it means you cannot change it. I'm trying to type in these lines. I can't because the file is now locked. Okay. Other things you could do very quickly. You could ask ProFile to pre-fill new tax returns. So let's pretend I want my tax file. Let me just open up a tax file very quickly. So you could create a template of a tax file, and I've already done that. So what I've done here is I've created a template of a tax file, and I've pre-selected certain information. I put in, because let's pretend all of my clients, or 90% of my clients, live in a particular city, in a particular province. The vast majority are going to answer yes to the Canadian citizen question and everything else. Okay, so I pre-checked and I selected all of these settings. I even opened up some additional tabs, T5, RSP, and so forth, okay? Because most of my clients, that's what I need to do. I need to put in T5 information and RSP information. And then what I do is I save it, and I gave it the name of template, all right? And so there you go. There's what I called the file. And I save it. And now what I could do is I could go back to options module. And again, remember to pay attention to the tax year and module. So 2023, I could tell ProFile, base any new file on the template that I just created. And I'm going to select OK. And now if I click File, New, 2023, because we're working in a 2023 tax year, notice how my tabs are there. And if I go to the info page, the cities there, and all of the questions, the check boxes. Are you a Canadian citizen? Do you authorize Elections Canada? Yes, no, whatever. I've already got that pre-selected based on my template. Okay, we're just going to quickly show you some last things. And then we'll have to sign off, unfortunately, because we had a lot to cover, didn't we? Don't forget there is a planner tool. I don't know if it happens to you, but it happened to me a lot where a client would say to me, what if I do this? What if I do that? Or what about next year? And so you could use the planner. So just use the Form Explorer, open up the planner, okay? And from there, let me just do that again. There we go. And then you can go in and, why is it not opening? Sorry. Try that again. There we go. Sorry, just type in plan. There we go. All right, so there's my tax planner. And now what I could do is I could start, remember, we're in a 2023 return. We're doing a tax plan for the next year, the next tax year, tax planner 2024. And I could start putting in all the numbers in myself, or I could just ask ProFile to copy whatever the information is already on the T1 return. And I don't think I have very much in this one. I don't think I have anything in this one. But if I did, the numbers would all fill in, and then I could just play with a what if scenario. The other really cool thing you could do is you could go to the info. So let's pretend you did somebody's 2023 tax return. And now they're like, yeah, but what about next year? You know, based on the numbers we have this year. So what you could do is you could actually go to the info page, maybe make a copy of that tax file. So go File, Save As, and make a copy of that tax file and scroll down on the info page and say, let's use next year's tax rates. So now I'm going to say, use the 2024 tax rates for this tax return. And notice I'm being warned. It's saying tax measures are not fully reflected. So the numbers may change. But as a planning tool, it's a great tool. So you could just use an existing tax return and change the tax year to next year. I wouldn't do it in the original file. I would create a separate file for that. Okay. And here, unfortunately, we don't have much time, but let me just point out some things that you may or may not know about. Okay. HyperDocs is a great way for you to attach a document to a tax return, only for internal use. You have a PDF of something. You have an Excel file. For example, I've got an Excel file here. So if I want to attach some kind of source document to a tax return, I could use something called HyperDocs. It's that easy to use. You could just click on File and then go to HyperDocs and attach a document. That easy. And remember, it's for internal use only. It's for office use only. Okay. And you could either embed or link the file. I go with embed because it comes a permanent attachment to that tax file. You could look at something as well called backup to the cloud. So if you want to make backup copies of your tax return, have a look at backup to the cloud. When you start ProFile, I can almost guarantee you saw this window open up saying, do you want to back up to the cloud? It's a free service. It's included in your license, and you could use backup to the cloud just to have a separate backup copy in the cloud. You'll never lose it. Okay. And then there's all kinds of other management systems, databases that you could see here. So there's something called Hub. There's something called Client Explorer, where you can which you can use to communicate with the client. So if you have to send some questionnaires or something to the client, you could do that with Hub. Okay, so notice that I've got something here called Link. So Hub works with a separate or a joint application called Link. I could communicate with my client using hub and link. And again, check out the videos. There's videos that explains all of this. You could look online and see all of this information. And the last thing I'll leave you with is an extremely powerful database called Client Explorer. Let me just very quickly show you Client Explorer. Click on Go To, and then select Client Explorer. And now I could see all my tax files for all tax years, T1, T2, everything in this one window. I could go and filter and say, just show me certain tax files for certain years or certain status T file. I could even say, show me any T1 e-file status that is not accepted. I tried to e-file some tax return, they weren't accepted. Show me those. And you could filter in a whole bunch of different ways using Client Explorer. There are a bunch of videos online that you could look at to learn more about Client Explorer. It's an incredibly powerful tool, and you have to set it up. You have to index it. There is, again, a video or a couple of videos that show you how to set up, how to index Client Explorer. You could even create reports out of Client Explorer. So if you want to have a report that says, show me how many clients had a balance owing, and show me the name of the client and the amount owing, you could get just different kinds of reports out of Client Explorer. And there we go. I had to rush there. Apologies at the very end. And so we are wrapped up. Thank you for being here. We're not done, but we promised we'd give you about 15 minutes. I've got 11 minutes. We do have a hard stop at a quarter after. And so let me, without any further intro, let me go and have a look at the Q&A panel. Someone's saying, would have been very valuable to spend more time on Client Explorer. I understand. Please have a look at the videos. There are so many detailed videos on Client Explorer. Person is saying, I've got to manage 400 clients. I think you'll find Client Explorer to be very, very powerful for your practice. If you've got 400 tax files or 400 clients, have a look at the videos. Someone is saying, my Client Explorer is grayed out. How do I fix this? Probably what you have to do is, let me close a window here. Give me a second. So go to Options, go to Database, okay? And then select Client Explorer, and then click on the Setup Wizard. The Setup Wizard is going to walk you through how to use Client Explorer. You'll have to index the files. There is a setup process. Once again, look at the videos, okay? If you check out the videos, I think you'll see that there is all kinds of information that are going to demystify the whole Client Explorer thing, okay? Let me try that again. I keep closing the question and answer window. Let me move this over to a different screen. That'll make it easier for me. Okay, let's see. Do we have any other questions? Are the videos available on YouTube? Yes, they are. You could find the videos on YouTube by searching for Intuit Accountants, or as I pointed out, go to training, go to in ProFile, open up ProFile, go to training, go to other training options, and then just scroll down this window, and there you go. You see it says go to videos, and now you can have a look at a preview of some videos. Notice how you could filter core training, advanced training. And then if you click on see all videos, it's going to bring you to YouTube. Okay, so it's an easy way of finding those videos. Just go in to Profile, Training, Other Training Options. And you can see there's a whole slew of videos here, okay? And they are bilingual. There's some in English, a whole bunch more in English than there are in French, but there are some in French as well. Let me see here. Let's see where we left off with the questions. Um, oh, somebody's asking the template for new T1s. How could I set up a template for carry forward? You can't set up a template for carry forward, but here's what you can do. If you go, let's go back to profile here. Okay, I've got too many windows open here. Let me just close this guy down. Give me a second. Oh, this is the wide one. Okay, so here's what you could do. For carry forwarded files, again, options, module. And then scroll down again. Remember, let me get rid of this directory. Okay, good. So remember, when you're in the module window, you have to select the module and the tax year. So let's pretend you're getting ready for 2024. So let's select 2024 T1. And then notice we've got all this stuff here that says, what do you want the default to be for files that you're carrying forward? Do you want to carry forward the slip descriptions? Do you want to carry forward donation descriptions, initials, authorization questions, and foreign property question? Do you want to carry forward all of this stuff? And so you could scroll down this list and select what you want to carry forward. Some people don't want the slip descriptions. The slip descriptions are on the T4 last year, the employer was ABC Inc. So in 2024, it's going to be ABC Inc. is going to show up by default on the T4. Some people want that. Other people don't want that. Some people want all of last year's donation receipts, just the names, to be carried forward until to the next year. Others don't. And that's what you could do with carry forward files. Okay, let's see. Can you show again where the videos are? Absolutely. Let me do that one more time. Let me close this window first. So again, training, other training options. And then when this window opens, just scroll down. Okay. And it says go to videos. All right. So hopefully that helps. And let me see. Client letters printing with considerable space between each paragraph. I have the same problem. Let's see our client letter. Let me go back and have another look at it. Oh, no, I can't. Sorry, because I messed up my directories and I shouldn't have done that, but I don't know what I was thinking. But let's look at the engagement letter. I have that already set up. Let's see. Give me a second here. If I type in, oh, maybe I could show you the letter. I do letter. Yeah, okay, so this looks good. Yeah, we've got some spaces here, but I probably did some return. I probably hit return a whole bunch of times here, I would think. And so go back into the templates, okay, and have a look and see how your template is set up. All right. And I think again, there are videos for that, or at the very least, there are resources on Intuit's Profile's website to talk you through that issue. Uh, let me just see. Is there a training for database? The only training again are the videos, and so have a look at those videos or look at the resources online. Somebody is saying the engagement letter printed fine. Okay, I'm not quite sure what you mean. I guess your engagement letter is printing fine. Let's see. Let's keep scrolling, see what else we've got. Someone is making a point that we do discuss in the handbook if you sold your principal residence, to watch how you fill that out for a spousal return. And but again, there's all kinds of information on Intuit's website that'll walk you through how to prepare the principal residence disposition. Someone's asking if the printing problem is fixed when working on a Mac computer. Unfortunately, I've got a confession to make. I am a Mac guy. I like my MacBook. 90% of the time, to be honest, I use a Mac. I use ProFile, of course, on a Windows machine because ProFile only runs under Windows. So, unfortunately, unless maybe your question, maybe you're using something like what's that? There's an app you could put on your MacBook, Parallels. I was using that for a while. You could install Parallels on your MacBook and then install Windows, and then you can install ProFile on your Mac. Someone's asking about printing problem. I really can't answer. I don't really know if, and so Monique is saying, yes, I am using Parallels. Sorry, Monique, I really don't know if that's going to create or solve any printing issues. But I was using it for a while, but then I decided to just buy a dedicated Windows machine. For me, it was a lot cleaner, a lot easier way of doing it. Joe is asking, the user guide is 2022, 2023. Will this be updated and when? I don't have any information about the user guide update, unfortunately. And Monique is saying the printing issue, the engineers are aware of the problems. I imagine you've been talking to the folk over at ProFile and they're aware that there's an issue with printing. Duncan, if I can call on you, if you have any inside info on that, let me know. If not, we'll just...
The printing from a Mac?
No, just printing. Someone's making a point about printing of templates that there's too much space in between some of the lines. I don't know if there's something you're aware of.
Not offhand. I'll have to look into it after
Okay.
the
Okay.
webinar.
All right. No worries. Okay, let me scroll down a little bit more. I think we've answered all the questions. I don't see any new questions coming in. Let me just
About the user
Yep.
guide, it will be updated when. I don't have a specific date yet, but
Okay.
it is updated every year.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Somebody's asking, where do I find that big user guide? Let me show you one more time. Just again, go to training, other training options, and you're going to be brought to a website right here. Download the user guide. So if I click that, you'll see it does say 2022, 2023, as Duncan pointed out. It will be updated, and look how detailed this user guide is. It's 210 pages of information. You could easily get to that user guide, as I said, by just clicking on training, other training options. And then from there, click on the orange button that says user guide. Okay, I think a couple of other questions have come in. And we're still talking about the letters. Some people are saying letters has been a challenge for me. And another individual is saying the engagement letter spaces are default. It was not changed. It's profile spacing. So that was the problem the person was talking about. Okay, you know what? I'm afraid I'm not entirely sure about the letters issue.
Yeah, we're not going to get a resolution to this on this webinar.
Yeah,
we can look into it later, but
sure.
Not going to investigate and have that solved in this
All right.
webinar.
Okay, that's fair enough, Duncan. And therefore, on that note, I think we will call it a day. I think we've let me just scroll through one more time. Oh, someone is no, okay, I see that Duncan is answering or has answered one of the questions.
Just to mention,
Yep.
if you have problems, probably not ideal to bring them up in a webinar. We do have the chat and the chat feature, and also you can call us.
Yeah, good point.
That's probably best way to make sure your issue is going to be handled.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
We're not really here to, problem solve
Yeah,
issues.
actually,
We're
thank you for saying that because I do want to point out that if you go to the help menu, you could start a chat session. So notice where my mouse pointer is hovering. It says start messaging. And so you could click on help, start messaging, and you could open up, it's a live chat session with an Intuit representative, a profile representative. And I think for things that are specific to your use, I think that Duncan, a good point, probably best to resolve those one-on-one with a care individual from Profile who will walk you through your specific issue. So it's dead easy. You could do it just right from inside your Profile application. Again, just click on help and start messaging, and you can start a chat session with your representative. And we're a couple of minutes past our
Yeah,
allotted time.
I will just mention a couple things.
Yes, go ahead.
I'll mention three.
Go
Thank you
ahead.
very much. Michael did
My
another
pleasure.
wonderful job. Um, Another thing is if you look at our system requirements, we do not support Macs
Hmm.
for Profile anymore. So basically, nobody's supporting parallels anymore, like
Oh, okay.
Microsoft isn't.
Okay.
So we're not supporting Macs any longer.
Okay.
So uh, if you call us and try and get a resolution to an issue on a Mac, we don't support it. We try and help you, but we aren't sending those to be reviewed by product development anymore because we don't support the product.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a really great point. As I say, many years ago, I was using Parallels on my Mac to run Profile. It worked fine most of the time, but after a couple of years of that, I decided just get a Windows machine. So much easier, to be honest with you. And it wasn't a memory hog. I mean, once you install Parallels and then Windows on top of it, and then Profile on top of that, it gets a little bit unwieldy. At least it did in my experience. And I find it much smoother to just, I've got a dedicated Windows machine, and it's a no-brainer as far as my opinion goes. So thank you for that, Duncan. Did you want to add a few other things, or was that it? I guess that is
I
it.
think
Oh,
about
nope.
the principal residence disposition.
Hmm.
There's articles on this,
Hmm.
on that, the common issues that people have or the e-file errors that are common. And also there's videos on that on our YouTube website, how to dispose of an asset.
Yeah,
Sorry, of a principal residence.
yeah.
So we do have lots of resources for that.
Yeah, and I can't stress that enough. The online resources available to us with the videos and all of the live community, and so there's so much out there. And I really encourage everyone on this call to have a look at all of that. And oftentimes, for me, the videos were the best because I could pause, I could look at what they're doing, then I could pause, I could go to my computer and try to do the same thing, then go back and look at the next step and pause. And I love the videos. Videos are great. But I'm afraid we're going to have to call it quits. I see there's a I see there's a bit of a debate going on in the question and answer window about parallels and MacBooks. Not going to go down that rabbit hole today.
Well,
Um,
we'll have to start a different channel for that. I
yeah.
mean, people love their Macs, and
Oh, I love my
I
Mac.
don't blame them, but it's just the fact that Profile is not
That's it.
designed for that.
Yeah.
And since Profile parallels aren't supported, Microsoft doesn't
Yeah.
support them
Yeah.
anymore. We really can't either. So,
No, I hear you.
because it's not only the parallel, it's not only getting the program to work and print, it's all the
Hmm.
security issues too. So
Yeah. Yeah, for
we're
sure.
kind of stuck there.
I hear you. Okay. On that note, we shall call it quits. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being so lively today. Thank you for all your comments and questions. Thank you for being here. Thank you to the Intuit team. Duncan, thanks a lot. As always, a pleasure working with you. Val, thank you for taking care of everything in the background, and best of luck to one and all. And if we don't talk again, have a wonderful rest of the year and rest up for tax season next year. And on that note, we'll sign off.
Can I,
Thanks again.
okay, I'm just going to mention one last thing.
Mhm.
Somebody said, can we make a profile for Mac?
Hmm.
And I'm going to say you could use ProTax,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
ProTax is operating system independent.
yeah,
So that's an option.
yeah. And you
Well,
have pro tax training webinars, right? You're
there
running.
you go. There you go. We
Yeah,
have ProTax. It's quite parallel. It's the same tax engine as Profile,
yeah.
and you can use whatever computer you want. You just need a supported browser.
Yeah, excellent point. If you are a Mac user and you want to prepare tax returns, have a look at ProTax. It's a great product. I really like it. And it might be the solution for you. And there are webinars running on ProTax. So yeah, take a look at that. And similar to Profile, there's all kinds of online resources. Check out Intuit's website, and you'll see that there's all kinds of information on ProTax as well. Okay,
And
shall
I'll
we?
just thank
Yep.
I just want to thank Val also, and
Yes.
you too, Mike. And I promise I won't say anything more.
Oh, Duncan, you are invited to open your microphone at any time. You know that. Duncan, like I keep saying, is the real expert. And always a pleasure working with you, sir. And thanks again, everyone. And on that note, I shall call it quits. So thanks again, and take care, everyone. Bye for now.